Hello and welcome to Australia's longest running pro wrestling podcast, Wrestle Radio Australia. My name is Lachlan Albert. I'm here with the Devil's Double. I've almost said your shoot name because I forgot your last name.
That's okay. I'm used to most announcers not doing the job properly.
I'll start it from
Allow me.
Come on.
The Devil's Double, Jesse Daniels.
There it is. All right, Jesse, I got to be honest. I think the reason I stuffed it up is you're an intimidating man, right?
Nah.
I've seen you spent the last few months beating the tar out of Bobby Bishop, right?
That is correct.
We're here at just before the Supershow, the Pro Wrestling League Supershow with Renegades of Wrestling. There's a lot of background that you've got here in Pro Wrestling League, and even going before Pro Wrestling League back to the Australian Wrestling League and AWA. What does it feel like to watch the growth of Australian wrestling from within? And Queensland wrestling specifically.
Well, 100%. Speaking honestly, and with nothing but good things to say, first and foremost, I'm going to leave Bobby Bishop out of the equation.
Yep.
Now, speaking of only good things, I tell a lot of people that when I started in professional wrestling in this state, in this town, in Brisbane, it was in the worst period it had ever been in, right? To the point where my first training sessions were in a backyard full of dog shit for an actual professional wrestling company. So to see how far we have come from that, and it's a lot of hard work. As you mentioned, AWA, the Australian Wrestling Alliance, started by my mentor, Esteban Molina, right? We persevered for years, and we had to go up against fans that own their own rings, against idiot promoters who would book their best friend as long as he was wearing his sister's leggings, right? The word professional did not exist in this town unless it was associated with the Australian Wrestling Alliance and with the men and women who were trying to build something with me. All that growth over 10 years was tremendous. We ended up getting into the Kedron Wavell RSL, and then COVID killed everything. AWA ceased to exist. Luckily, Pro Wrestling League continued to grow in leaps and bounds. And being here in this venue, Eaton's Hill Hotel in the Grand Ballroom, this is definitely on the bucket list of venues that I wanted to be in before I called it a day. We've already done the RSL, Kedron Wavell. We're here at the Eaton's Hill Ballroom. Now, I know of one more venue I want to get in before I see my days done in the ring, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get there. But all good things take time, right? And right now we're about to see the absolute best in Australian wrestling here in Brisbane, in Queensland, a showcase of Queensland wrestling. Why? Because all good things take time. And here we are, 15 years after I first walked into a backyard full of dog shit. We are here. Credible training centers, credible promotions, the best names in Australia, and we're about to put on a show in February that is going to be very hard for people around the country to compete with for the year.
Absolutely. So, as much as I love talking about the growth of Queensland wrestling, I want to talk about you specifically, right?
Our favorite subject.
Now, you said good things take time, and COVID seemed like a big hit. You disappeared off for a little while. You were off the map there, and I saw the name creeping back in New South Wales, then showing up back at PWL. When you have that kind of time away from the spotlight, what does it do to you as a performer? And does it make you more hungry? Does it make you more nervous to get in the ring? How does it change you as a performer?
I have not been asked this question yet. So allow me to take the time to answer.
Please do.
The reason for me taking time off is because as hard as you get hit inside the ring and the number of punches I have taken, broken teeth I have spat out, right? Nothing hits harder than life. That's just a fact, right? And I'm okay to stand here and say I went through a very bad period of mental health, right? I felt like the people who were closest to me had turned their back, that people didn't care whether I was still on this planet breathing anymore. I went up against myself, and that is the hardest battle I have ever had to face, but I came out the other side of it, right? getting back into it, all those perceptions are still there of how are people thinking about me. And this is so much harder with like ADHD and everything that I've got, right? Which allows me to focus and predict what people are going to do, which makes everything so much worse. Right, let's be honest. Excellent for the ring. I can see a clothesline coming well ahead of time, but thinking that people are going to hate me and having that build definitely allows me to coat myself with a very strong exterior and a very strong shell to be able to get through stuff. On top of that, on top of thinking that people hate you, you're then questioning your own, like, can I still go? Right? It's been like 4 years since I've been in the ring. Can I still go? I have been a main event star. Can I still go? Can I be booked in other companies? Can I still go? Do I have the ability to potentially get signed one day? I don't know. Can I still go? So many questions, right? And so many things in your head. And I'm happy that it took me 4.5 years to step away, because once I stepped away, there was nothing I wanted to run to more. Wrestling became like an ex-lover that turned their back on you, and you just want it back, and you'll do anything for it. And as soon as I got over that breakup, that's when doors started opening. That's when people started saying, come over here, we want to see what you can do. And going from my first match back, one of my first matches back, in the first like 30 seconds, I pulled my groin. Right? It was not a good match.
In the nasty way, not the fun way.
In the nasty way, not the fun way. And Aries, you owe me a rematch for a title at some point down the track. But coming through all of that, like I said, nothing is harder than life. I carried Queensland wrestling for as long as I could, right? I've got the hair of Jesus. Back then, I was doing the same thing. I bore the cross on my back and dragged it. Eventually, I got to my limit. I had to take time to deal with that. Coming back, so many questions. Do people like me? Am I going to be remembered? Is everything that I did for naught? And seeing how far we've come, I think that everything happens for a reason. If the reason was for somebody to take the baton and keep going, that's what's happened. And I couldn't be upset. I'm not going to say, oh, I wish things had been different, because everything is so good. The only thing I wish was different was that Bobby Bishop's name wasn't on everything.
All right. Well, let's try and move past the Bobby of it all. But you mentioning people taking the baton, and I know that, look, for me, being part of that Queensland wrestling scene when you were on top, it's really interesting to see that a lot of the people doing things now are people who I look back and they were looking up to you when you were champion, or you were leading them in the Daniels Republic or whatever it was. So how do you balance wanting to see success for those people that you have led into the industry versus your own personal ambition to be on top?
That's a good question. You mentioned that as I was at the top, there were people looking up to me. I would like to think that has not changed, right? I deserve for everybody to look up at me. Like, what better feeling than looking down? But you're right. People who I led, people who were under me, have taken the baton. They've stepped up. They are now championing Queensland wrestling. Do I look up to them? Yeah, they've got my respect. They always had my respect. But I'm the one that saw the potential for them to be able to do it. I'm the one that took them in. I'm the one that gave them the opportunity. Is it of their own accord, or was it carefully and predictably planned out by a genius? You tell me.
Who's to say?
You tell me.
Well, I mean, like, if it was all planned out, it'd be great if they didn't know it, right? That's an element of it.
Man, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist.
All right. So I got to ask, what are the most exciting things on the horizon for the Devil's Double, Jesse Daniels?
I would like to beat up Bobby Bishop
Yep.
one more time.
That
know,
feels like it's going to be at the top of the list even after it
Can we
happens.
just touch base
Let's do
on
it.
like the last match, please?
Here we go.
Can we
I'm
please
crossing
touch,
the list.
because
Let's
I
go.
have not been able to voice this, and I have a very strong opinion of this,
Here we go.
right? Dog collar match, right? So that you can't get away from me, I can't get away from you, even playing field, right? Everything hunky-dory, right? And everybody's meant to respect that, right? It's not a cage match. If people want to come out from the back and they want to participate, go nuts. The other guy's only a couple of meters away, right? No issues whatsoever. But when an official decides to interject themselves, when I'm about to concerto Bobby Bishop again, you know, you might say, oh, that's not a very nice thing that you do. You know, grab Bobby, step on the collar, keep him down, grab the chair, go to whack him, just splatter the... You might say that's not a very nice thing, right?
I've got to be honest, Jesse.
Right?
Like,
Your opinion doesn't matter. Okay? Splatter the brains. Right? The fact that referee Pat interjects himself, pulls the chair away, distracts me in order for Bobby Bishop to low blow me with the chain and then hit me with a pile driver. Now, there are no rules in a dog collar match. I understand that. But there are rules against officials entertaining their own interests in a match. I personally would like to see referee Pat completely fired, because that match was about to take a very different turn.
I also think the police might have had something to say if you'd done that much damage to a man in the ring. Like, I get that there's contracts and everything.
Potentially, but we'll never know.
All right. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, you know, jump on the social media. I know that the Devil's Double Jesse Daniels has a lot more coming up in the near future, both in terms of and outside of Bobby Bishop. So, Jesse, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on.
And we'll see you next time.